Recording in progress. Good morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock. It's time to start our Zoomcast for today. The day is the 9th day of November 2022. We are on the fall Zoomcast series. My name is Robert Crowder. I'm the president and founder of the Benefits Trust. On behalf of all of us here at the Benefits Trust, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for participating today. We're going to have close to 100 people on the call. They're just joining in right now, which is awesome. At the end of the session today, you're going to get a CE credit. Mike Ignatz, give us a wave. Mike, who's with us right now from the Benefits Trust, he's going to be sending you a CE credit. Also from the Benefits Trust, Rob is with us, Rob Crowder, my son, and Carrie Lane is here. I think I saw her earlier. Give us a wave, Carrie. I saw her a moment ago, I think. Anyways, Carrie's here, I believe, and she's going to answer some questions. Mike's going to answer some questions. Rob's going to answer some questions. So if you have any questions, type them in the chat box so everybody can see, or just put your hand up, reach out, or scream out, whatever, and we'll be happy to answer the questions with the time we have left. We're going to spend an hour together, so you're going to get a CE credit. As well as that, we're going to give you a really short survey. It takes less than a minute to fill out. Please fill it out. Please send it back. Tell us how we did today. We want to do better tomorrow than we did today. And we want to hear your ideas on future Zoomcasts that we're going to do. Today, we are talking about Know Your Corporate Client, and we're talking about profitable clients with 2,200 employees. And that's what our focus is going to be today. And again, we want to thank you very much for joining. I'm going to share my screen right now and pull up some slides. If you are Bob, I think you were just, maybe you want to mute yourself there. So Know Your Corporate Client, and I think it's what we want to talk today is as I like to say, we've got a bunch to a lot, as I like to say, 20 employees to 100 employees. We've got you to a few, which is 1 to 5 employees, a few to a bunch, which is 5 to 20, and then 20 to 100. We're focusing on 20 to 100 today. So what we want to talk about today is, and again, this is from the financial or FSRA, and our agenda is based on what they suggest. It would be an awesome agenda and eligible for CE credits, which we're here to talk about, which we're here to give today as well. But we want you to learn at least one good idea. That's what I like to say when I attend these things. If you can get one good idea, that's awesome. And we want to share with you some of our thoughts. And as Ricky said in Trailer Park Boys, our thinks and thoughts. We want to share our thinks and thoughts, if you would. But we want to talk about client needs analysis, which are important. Why is it important? We want to talk about understanding risks and how to manage them, reporting and accounting considerations, taxation considerations, and then we, of course, want to be able to answer any questions that you might have or have a discussion about what we're talking about today. So that's what our focus is today, and that's what our agenda is going to be. If you've attended some of our earlier sessions this fall, some of this is going to be a little bit of a repeat, but it's always good to refresh. It doesn't matter whether you're a professional in this business or a professional hockey player, you always go back to the basics. And so we're going to repeat some of those things as we go through the slides today. A little bit of a point of view. There are 440,000 businesses in Ontario with less than 100 full-time employees. Simple as that. There's 440,000 businesses with less than 100 employees. We're focusing on that 20 to 100 group today. Willie Sutton was a famous bank robber in the United States in the 1930s. He had two really good skills. He could rob banks, but he could also break out of prisons. And he did both of them very successfully. He robbed 60 some odd banks, robbed millions and millions of dollars. And this is back in the 1930s. He was finally in front of it, or one time he was in front of a judge. And, they said to Willie, the judge asked him a question, why do you rob so many banks? And he goes, because that's where the money is. Well, in Ontario, why do we focus on less than 100 employees? Because quite frankly, that's where the money is. There's 450,000 businesses. 440,000 of those businesses have less than 100 employees. We're focusing on where the money is. 20 to 100 employees, I'm willing to bet there's well over 100,000 businesses in Ontario. There are endless prospects. The other thing that's kind of interesting is a lot of companies are having it slowed down just a touch, but a lot of companies are still having difficulty finding employees. They've got more work than they do have employees. I was talking to somebody earlier today. I took my car in for service, and they had to keep it overnight because they just simply didn't have enough employees to handle all of their appointments. It's right now in Northern Ontario, it's hunting season, so a lot of people are off hunting. But anyways, there's just a number of employers that need employees. There's endless prospects, and 76% of new hires are looking for benefits. It's as simple as that. 76% are looking for new hires. So when I look at this point of view, when I look at this size of business, when I look at where we are, there's hundreds of thousands of businesses that need our help. It's as simple as that, and they need our help now. So the question is, when we're talking about benefits, I think benefits purchasing decisions are made differently in each group. You do a few to a bunch, and a bunch to a lot. That 20 to 100 employees, I think they're made differently. So today we want to focus on that 20 to 100 employee size. And the question that I have is how are the benefit purchasing decisions? How do they differ in this group? How can you provide value at a profit? And through this lens, we're going to explore this topic today. But I think, how do you do this at a profit? I think is critical. There's an awful lot of opportunity out there. There's an awful lot of companies out there that can provide benefits to this solution or to this size group. There's an awful lot of TPAs that can provide benefits. But the question is, how do you do it profitably? Well, the answer is, you need to lead your client. You're the expert. They're looking to you as the expert. So you need to be the expert, and you need to lead your client to a decision very, very quickly. And it's not necessarily the cheapest solution, but it's the best solution. And that's how you do it profitably, is leading your client to that solution. I see too much time wasted on, endless spreadsheets and confusing your clients with solutions and having them make the decision, as opposed to you being the expert, doing the work and leading your client to that decision. And I think that's how you make it extraordinarily profitable. A little bit of a disclaimer: the Benefits Trust started on January 1st, 1994. We've been around for a while. Our target market is less than 100 employees, because again, that's where the money is. These are our views and our opinions. It's what we're thinking. And this is based on myself personally having more than 10,000 sales meetings in this space over the last 30 odd years. This is coming from a place of experience. This is not, quote unquote, a commercial for the Benefits Trust. You're going to be hearing what our views are, and we're going to give you some examples, and we're going to review 3 case studies. But this is, not a commercial for the Benefits Trust. This is about you, getting in hours of CE education, as well as learning something exciting. All right, so client needs analysis. Why is this important? Well, client needs analysis, I think, is critical because it's there to protect you. Simple as that. And again, for those that have participated in these sessions before, we'll go through this relatively quickly, but it's really there to protect you. You need to know where your client is going so you can help them. Or you need to know where your client is going so you can choose whether or not you want to help them. But it's interesting, client calls, sales calls, prospecting meetings, they're two-way interviews. They're two-way interviews. You want to know where your client is going, and if they're not telling you where they're going, they don't want to tell you where they're going, right? How can you help them? Gary, you and I have done business together for a number of years, and I'm just picking on you because you're first on my screen right now. But if I don't know where you're going, I can't help you get there. I need to know where you're going, Gary, right? Like, it's as simple as that. And if what's the point of giving you directions to Kapuskasing if you're not going to Kapuskasing? You're going to Mexico. Well, Kapuskasing doesn't give you, I give you directions. You take Highway 11. You don't care. You don't care. It's of no value to you. So I need to know where you're going in order to help you. It's as simple as that. So knowing your corporate client, I think, is critical. And knowing where they're going is so you can help them. You can either choose to help them or not choose to help them. As I like to say as well, there are 2 types of prospects in the world. There are some clients, some prospects, some clients that spend a lot of time trying to save money. And then there are some clients and prospects that spend a lot of money trying to save time. So look at yourself personally. And what is it that you do? Myself, I like to spend a lot of money trying to save time. I want convenience in my life. I want to be, I want to be straightforward. Gary was talking, we were chatting beforehand. You're going to Mexico on Saturday, Gary, and you were talking about how do you book that registration point to get your, to go through security so there's no issues, right? You want to do that because you want to save time. It's not about you, you'd pay for that service. You'd pay some money for that service so you can save time. It's as simple as that. So when you think about it from that mindset, that's how we want to help our clients. So you need to know where your client is going and you need to ask. Well, the simple question is, how do you ask them where they're going? Well, I've used this question for the last 10 years or so. It was created by, I first heard it from Dan Sullivan from the Strategic Coach. And it is, if you were meeting here 3 years from today and looking back over those 3 years, what has to have happened for you to say it's been the best 3 years of your life? Simple question. I ask that question all the time. I ask that question in every prospecting meeting that I'm in. I ask that question to my friends at dinner parties. I ask that question to my friends when we're sitting around the campfire or whatever it is. It's a great question. It creates conversation, but you want to know where they are going. So you ask them the question, if you were looking back if you were putting yourself 3 years out and you were looking back over those 3 years, what has to have happened for you to say it's been the best 3 years of your life? It's just a simple question, but it's such a powerful, powerful question. And again, thanks to Dan Sullivan for this, but it's going to give you a clear understanding of where your client is going, whether they're going to grow, whether they're going to sell, whether they're going to merge, whether they're going to retire, whether they're going to enter into new markets or develop new products. Again, Gary and I were talking about this earlier this morning, and he was talking to one of our mutual clients and asked a question very similar to this if it wasn't this question. And they said, hey, geez, we're selling our franchise. We're selling our business. We're moving in a different direction, right? It gives you that clear understanding. Gives you that clear understanding of where it is that they are going. And especially when we're in that 20 to 100 life case as well, with a recession potentially looming. Is it going to be a large company recession? Is it going to be a small company recession? What kind of recession is it going to be? Is it going to be industry specific? We don't know. Or industry specific? We don't know. But how does your client feel about the recession potentially coming up? The other thing is what business cycle are they in? Because businesses go through cycles. Businesses go through cycles, and what business cycle are they in right now? So these are important questions to ask because you got to know where they're going in order to be able to help them. It's as simple as that. So other great questions are, what are your biggest fears? What are your, what strengths do you want to capitalize? What's giving you confidence looking into the future? These are fantastic questions to ask as a follow-up. If you know where your client is going and what scares them, something scares everyone. I don't care how confident you are, something scares everyone. One of my biggest fears is lack of money. Simple as that. I don't want to have no money in my pocket. That's one of my biggest fears. So cash flow is something that is, preservation of cash flow is something that is a huge fear of mine, and I want to make sure it's protected. What strengths do you want to capitalize on? What is giving you confidence looking into the future? So these are all fantastic questions to ask. And this future-based conversation is going to give you a clear picture where your client is going and how you help them. And if they don't want to engage with you, my personal opinion is next. If I'm saying to, you, Ivan, you're on the call here. If you don't want to tell me where you're going, I can't help you. Simple as that. I can't help you because you know what? I don't know if you're going to Kapuskasing or you're going to Mexico. They're in two different directions. But I'm not going to just sit there and take stabs at, in the dark and determine where you're going, whether you're going north, south, east, or west. And I'm going to give you all these different options and do all this work. And if I can't help you because I don't know where you're going, well, I'm just going to be wasting my time, and that's not going to be profitable for me. Simple as that. So it's about, engaging with your client, understanding where they're going, and leading them into a solution that makes sense for them. It's as simple as that. And if you don't like where they're going, well, you know what? There's no point of engaging with them either. Simple as that. So let's move on to the next component, and that is understanding risks and how to manage them. Well, a benefit plan is nothing more than a promise between an employer and a group of employees. Simple as that. It's a promise between an employer and a group of employees. I was in a meeting a number of years ago, and all of a sudden this sort of really came clear. came up. The meeting wasn't going well with this particular prospect and this particular advisor that I was with, and I was sitting back and I was watching, and the advisor is getting frustrated, and the client sitting there, and he's leaning back in his chair in this case, and he's got his arms crossed. And, you can tell he was frustrated, and this was a waste of his time. And I said, no, hold on a second, everybody stop for a moment. I said, what is an employee benefit plan? And the client said, it's what we're talking about. Or the prospect said, it's what we're talking about, this group life stuff and this dental stuff and so on. And I said, no, an employee benefit plan, and again, I've no idea where this came from, but an employee benefit plan is a promise between an employer and an employee or a group of employees. And you could see things turning in his head. You could see the smoke coming out of his ears. And that language all of a sudden became crystal clear to him in this particular case. That word promise is a very powerful, powerful word. If I promise you something, I'm putting my reputation on the line. I'm putting my word on the line. It's a powerful thing. Jeff, Jeff, you're on the call, Jeff Hong, and if I'm making you a promise, it's me personally making you a promise. I got to keep that promise. That's something that's very valuable to me. It's something very valuable to you. An employee benefit plan is a promise between an employer and a group of employees or an employee. So when you look at that very specifically, it really resonates with the client. And our role as an advisor, our role as professional advisors is something of a translator. I think it's important that we translate things from, insurancees, as I like to say, in the insurance world, we use a lot of TLAs. Everybody's going, what's a TLA? A 3-letter acronym, right? We use a lot of TLAs in our business. What's an IBNR? What's this? What's that? Anyways, we need to translate that into English where a client can understand what it is that we're talking about. So as I like to say, an employee benefit plan is a promise between an employer and employee. What do you want to promise them? And then I like to break it down very simply. There are 2 types of promises that a client can make. So Mr. Prospect or Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, what do you want? What type of promise do you want to make? There are 2 types of promises that you can make. One is a low frequency, high cost promise, and one is a high frequency, low cost promise. So what does that mean in the translation world? Well, quite simply, a low frequency, high cost promise requires insurance. Things like group life, AD&D, long-term disability, critical illness, out-of-country travel insurance, stop-loss, short-term disability potentially, right? Depending on how it's designed. But really, if I'm making someone a promise, if I'm making somebody a promise that says, hey, you know what? If you die as a result of an accident, I'm going to give you $100,000 or your named beneficiary $100,000. The chance of that happening is very remote. It's very low in frequency, but the cost of that promise is very high. If I'm making an employee a promise that I'm going to give them their named beneficiary $100,000, again, that's an expensive promise. So what I want to do is I want to really download that promise, if you would, and I want to buy insurance to protect against it for these types of things like the group life, AD&D, long-term disability. Again, they happen very frequently, but the promise is very high. The opposite is true as well. I want to make a promise to somebody that's high in frequency, but low cost. And that really doesn't require insurance, it's budgeting. And insurance companies are on the same side as us with this. It's just really budgeting. It's about estimating what the claims are going to be and having the appropriate budget to cover those claims. Things like extended healthcare, prescription drugs, vision, dental. And then again, depending on how it's designed, short-term disability as well. So these types of things are high in frequency. Like, for example, of the 80 people that are on the call right now, how many people are planning on going to the dentist in the next 12 months? Well, I'm sure just about everybody is. Gordon's got his hand up. Carrie's got her hand up. Susan's got her hand up. Everybody's going to go to the dentist in the next 12 months. Well, you know what? Because if you don't go to the dentist in the next 12 months, trust me, you're going to be on Zoom for the rest of your life because no one's going to want to sit beside you, right? But it's not going to be that much in money. It's going to be a couple $100. You're going to go get your teeth cleaned. You're going to get an x-ray, whatever it is. It's going to be a couple $100. It's not catastrophic. It's not sudden. It's not unexpected. It's not high cost. It's one of those routine things that we do. You know, I'm going to take the generic equivalent of Lipitor tonight before I go to bed, right? It's a high frequency thing. It happens, you know, about 365 days a year for me, right? It's very low in cost. It's pennies. So it's a promise that an employer can make to an employee that's very straightforward and very specific, but it's again, it's one of those things that is high in frequency and low in cost. And then the other side is, you know, high cost and low frequency. So when you translate this, it's in using that promise, it's what do you want to promise your particular employees? Well, as I like to say, there are two types of promises that you can make, either defined benefit or defined contribution, or some combination of both. All right, it's defined benefit or defined contribution. Well, if you define the benefit, I'm going to promise you that I'm going to cover you for 80% of your expenses for routine trips to the dentist. Fantastic. I'm going to make that promise. It's very clearly defined, but what is not defined is the cost. The cost is going to vary year over year, because if you go to the dentist twice and then there all of a sudden you need one filling one year and you don't need a filling the next year, your cost is going to vary. So the benefit is very clearly defined. The cost is what changes. The opposite is true in a defined contribution plan, saying, hey, I'm going to give you, for example, a healthcare spending account. I'm going to give you a bucket of money. That bucket of money you can use however you want. But you know what? What's going to be clearly defined is that amount of money that's going in. There's budget certainty associated with a defined contribution plan. What's unsure is how you're going to spend that money and on what. So the contribution is defined, but not the benefit. Or you can look at a combination of both, which is becoming extraordinarily popular, especially today. It's becoming extraordinarily profitable, where you're saying to your clients and your prospects, hey, we're going to define certain benefits, but we're also going to define the contribution that's going in for very specific things. So that hybrid type of an arrangement. So understanding risks and how to manage them is, you know, you've got to know as a professional advisor what's available in the marketplace. And in this marketplace, there are a lot of things that are available. There are numerous insurance company solutions, and there are numerous third-party administrator solutions like us at the Benefits Trust. We've got a ton of solutions for this type of marketplace. Because why? This is our target market. Why? This is where the money is. It's as simple as that. But the question is, and I've always asked this question, is how do we service this marketplace profitably? How do you serve this marketplace profitably? You are not a charity. You need to do this profitably. And the answer is, you know, you need to maximize your client costs. You need to minimize the amount of time that you spend on your client solution. But as I like to say, you need to lead your client. You need to lead your client to a solution that makes sense for them. You need to lead your client. You are the expert, and it's important that you lead your client in a fashion that is profitable to them and profitable to you. And pardon me, as I like to say, in order to do this, I think it's fantastic if you can have a custom solution. And how you define a custom solution is you look at the groups within a group. We've got 20 to 100 employees. There's always groups within a group. As I like to say, at the Benefits Trust, we are our own perfect prospect, as I like to say. We're our own perfect prospect because the owners are active in the business. Our future is going to be bigger than our past. All right, we've got 30 employees in our organization, but in that organization, there are different groups within our group. There's the ownership group, the management group. There's people that have been with us a number of years. There's people that are new. There are all sorts of different groups within our group. And I like to say, you know, understanding risks and how to manage them and coming up with that custom solution, you work with the client and prospect to understand what the groups are with the group. But I like to say, start at the top. Start with that executive benefits plan. All right, start with that executive benefit plan. When you can create a custom solution, when you can create a custom solution for a particular client that is unique to them, that is their benefit plan, it's not replaceable. Simple as that. It's not replaceable. Somebody's not going to come along and say, hey, thank you very much, Mr. Prospect. Let me show you a way to save you some money. I can save you 10%. Let me do a market survey and see if we can get it cheaper from Empire Life or Canada Life or Sun Life or whatever the case may be, because they might be hungry for business right now. They're not going to be able to duplicate the plan design. It's as simple as that. So the custom solution is really whatever the client wants to promise by class. And the more custom the solution is, the more difficult it is to replace, right? And how do you create that custom solution? Well, you're not restricted by what the insurance companies can offer. As I like to say, this is just a shopping list of things that you can include in a benefit promise. You know, you can include group life insurance, or you don't necessarily have to include group life insurance. You know, we've got some clients that believe that that is an individual's decision. Life insurance is an individual's decision, right? It's entirely up to you, or more importantly, entirely up to the client whether they want to include it or not. Same thing with critical illness or stop loss insurance or special risk insurance coverage. Whatever the client wants, you know, it's understanding what they want to promise and then putting the pieces in place to match that promise, as opposed to showing them what the cost of all of these things are and then having them choose. Right? It's understanding what it is that they want to promise their employees, and you know, using this as somewhat of a shopping list. Simple as that. So I want to spend the next little while talking about 3 different case studies to sort of give you an example of some of the creative things that we've done. And as I like to say, thin files and profitable clients. Thin files and profitable clients. So this case study number 1, 2 generations of family-owned business. They've got 62 employees in total. These guys are all over the place. And they are retail, office staff, drivers, shipping, warehouse workers, order pickers. You know how exciting it is when you drive along this, like today, this morning, I was driving from my home to the office here, and I passed one of their trucks. And I just always get excited when I see that, because it's, you know, you're seeing one of your clients out there. Anyways, they've got shipping and they've got drivers and they got warehouse workers and order pickers. But anyways, the family-owned business, they've got 2 generations that are active in that. The owner, the original owner, the old guy, as I like to call him, you know, he's that arm around the shoulder kind of guy, and he just wants to make sure that his employees are taken care of. But he also doesn't want to break the bank. So he said, I want to provide a benefit plan to all employees that's just a basic level of benefits, so they've got something in place. And then if they want to purchase additional benefits, they can. That was his sort of dream, right? That's what he wanted to do. So a number of years ago, we created a tiered structure with 4 levels. So there was a core plan that was put into place that was 100% funded by the employer. It was 1 times earnings for life and accidental death and dismemberment. They had a long-term disability benefit, or as I like to say, a continuation of their paycheck to the age 65. They had an employee and family assistance program. So if they were dealing with some issues, they needed some help, professional help, they could do that. Took the weight off their managers. They had 60-day out-of-country travel with travel assist. And they had a very basic 70% extended healthcare benefit and a 70% dental care benefit. So a very basic plan. The company, pardon me, funded that at 100%. So you came into this company, no matter what you did or no matter who you were, you got this particular benefit plan, right? Very basic, again, long-term disability, out-of-country emergency travel coverage, some life insurance, and 70% health and dental. Then what happened is there was optional plans with bronze, silver, and gold levels. So the employees had an optional plan that they could purchase once a year, right? Where they could say, hey, we want to kick that 70% up to 80%, or we want to kick it up to 90%, or we want to kick it up to 100%. And they being the employees, would be paying that additional amount on a monthly basis through payroll deduction. So what in this particular case, what happens is shifts between the tiers are permitted annually, pardon me, and employees are only permitted to move up or down 1 tier to create or decrease the anti-selection potential. So it's as simple as that. Now, it's really interesting because once a year, the employees are asked, hey, what do they want for their coverage? And then they make that decision. And it's kind of interesting because it really hasn't changed that much over the years. You know, my spouse is you know, we've been married for many years. She doesn't work outside of our business, essentially. And, you know, we want that 100% coverage. So if this was my plan, I would be buying up that 100% coverage, right? Because that's the coverage that we want, and that makes sense for our particular family. Whereas, somebody else's family, they might have a spouse that works as a, ambulance driver or a roller skating coach or whatever it is, and they have a benefit plan. Well, they only need the 70% coverage because they're using their spouse's or partner's plan through coordination of benefits. So everybody's got a different scenario, but it allows them the flexibility to purchase what makes sense in their particular situation, and it allows them to make informed decisions, but they're limited on how much they can go up or down. As well as that, we put in an owner's plan in 100% health and dental for the two families, the two generations that are involved in this plan. And it's interesting because they utilize their plan fairly aggressively, actually. It's kind of interesting to see what their claims experience is like, but it's fairly aggressive. For the owners, and again, that unique executive plan that includes 100% unlimited coverage with no maximums, they touch the claim once, it's paid. The cost is, set based on a budget, and it's billed to them on a monthly basis. Simple as that. If they're over budget, they're in a deficit position. If they're under budget, they're in a surplus position. It's easy. It's straightforward. The client understands this. The creative plan design that's going to assist in keeping the company's budget while providing, their entire staff with access to core benefits. Great. The costs really don't change that much for that 70% benefit. And then the employees, they give them that flexible option to match their objectives, right? It's the very straightforward benefit plan when you look at it. Pardon me, very simple, very easy to communicate, and yet it's very customized. It's customized for this particular client. And it's interesting because with only 62 employees, this plan is incredibly difficult to replace. People will walk in and they go, oh my gosh, we can't get an insurance company to match this type of plan design. It won't happen. And if they do, it's going to be extraordinarily expensive. So this customized solution creates thin files, not a lot of interaction with the client on an ongoing basis, and it creates a very profitable client. So that's one example. Another example, as I like to say, groups within the group. Another example, here's a company with 74 full-time employees, 2 owners in this particular company. 74 full-time employees, and they need a plan that help the client with their commitment to their employees by giving each of them a flat amount it's based on their years of service. This particular company, their employment philosophy is very much one of empowerment. It's as simple as that. It's one of empowerment. Everybody's kind of equal. They employ their philosophy is to have their own employees make decisions about their life. They really want to empower them. So what they wanted to do is provide that core sort of flat structure to everybody. They said, great, here's $25,000 in life. Here's $25,000 of AD&D. Here's $25,000 of critical illness. Here's, your paycheck is going to continue to age 65 if you become totally permanently disabled. And we encourage people to travel, so they've got a 90-day out-of-country travel product. Simple as that. Then for the owners, we put in, again, that executive plan, that 100% health and dental plan, touch the plan once. Everything they put forward is covered at 100%, no co-insurances, no maximums. So they wanted that really just sort of very simple and core benefit, again, life, AD&D, critical illness, long-term disability, and out-of-country emergency travel coverage. Then what they decided they wanted to do was they wanted to give a flat dollar amount to each employee, and the employee can choose whether or not they can put this into an RSP or into a healthcare spending account. Pardon? What? Yeah, they can choose on an annual basis to put this towards a healthcare spending account or an RSP, or they can choose a combination of both, right? So clients' the members make the choices annually, and it's based on what their needs are in that particular year, right? And they can make a different decision every single year. Again, whether it goes into an RSP or whether it goes into a healthcare spending account. Simple as that. In this particular case, they started off by offering everybody $2,500, and then all of a sudden, people started sticking around because they're such a great employer. So all of a sudden they had to change their limits. They had to change their limits. So they said, anybody with 10 years or more experience or more tenure with the company gets $5,000. And if you've got 15 years or more, you get $7,500 in their healthcare spending account or their RSP or a combination of both. So this is what they wanted through asking questions. This is what, but where they wanted to go in the future. This is what the client wanted. And we're saying, fantastic, let's make it happen, right? It's their benefit plan. It's good for them, right? That's what they wanted. That's what makes sense in their organization. That's what motivates their employees. Their employees understand it. They get it. They want to stick around. They want to stick around for a whole host of reasons. Benefits is certainly one of them, because all of a sudden they're getting $7,500 in their healthcare spending account or their group RRSP, right? It's as simple as that. It's easy to understand. It's easy to communicate. What else is really interesting is their renewal. Their renewal takes seconds, because the only thing they have to focus on is, yeah, okay, the cost of insurance is going up by 10 cents or by 1 cent, pardon me. The cost of group life is going up by 1 cent or whatever the change is. But the only thing they're really focusing on is these amounts and whether these amounts are accurate with their compensation philosophy. But it's not, oh my gosh, we've here's what the original position of the insurance company was, and then we negotiated it, and then we presented it, and then we did a market survey. No, this is a matter of moments, and it's a discussion. It's a discussion with the client, right, on whether $7,500 is appropriate for someone that's been there 15 years or more. That's their decision. It's their defined contribution. It's what works for them. They've got these particular benefits that are in place to protect against those catastrophic, sudden, unexpected events. And then they're empowering their employees to make decisions based on what their particular family circumstances are. Now, it's interesting, in our organization, I'm 58 years old and I've got 3 kids, one of which is still on the benefit plan, 2 of which have aged out, right? And I'm considered a family, right? Versus someone in our organization that is just newly married, they're 28 years old or 25 years old, and they've got a partner or spouse. Well, their needs are very different than my needs, but they're considered family. We're both equal from that perspective. So, a traditional benefit plan, does it work? Their philosophy in this particular organization was they really had that empowerment philosophy, and they wanted a benefit plan that reflected that. Through a series of questions, this is the plan design that they came up with that works best for them. Our job was to accommodate the promise that they were making to their employees and keep that promise, communicate that promise, give them advice on how to fund that promise appropriately, right? But what has this resulted in? A custom plan design, that works for them. They're able to budget accordingly. There's stable costs. There aren't any financial surprises. And the employee can make different decisions based on their needs. So, for example, if you need braces one year, but you don't need them the next year, you can maximize the amount that's going into your account. And the annual renewal decision is simple. This is a very thin file. Thin files are profitable files, right? And it's interesting because, somebody can come along and they can say, let me quote on your benefits. And they're going, why? What are you going to do differently? Are you going to save me, 10% of my life insurance costs? That's not enough to get out of bed for, right? So it's kind of interesting because it's a very customized plan design, but there is no opportunity, for someone to come in and replace this type of plan design, as long as this plan design is working for them. And that's why you got to ask that question. If we were meeting here 3 years from today, what has to have happened to say it's been the best 3 years of your life? You got to ask that question on an ongoing basis. And, for years, this plan design has worked because their philosophy really hasn't changed that much. So it's difficult to replace. Another example, we got 20 minutes left. Another example is we 40 full-time employees, 8 managers, not necessarily our target market because we try to deal with entrepreneurial organizations, but this particular company is a European company with a Canadian division. I'm sharing this with you because I remember this meeting, and I remember the meeting distinctly. And it happened many, many years ago. This is one of our original clients that we've had for close to 30 years now. But it's interesting, they've got a global philosophy, a global compensation philosophy. It's a worldwide corporate philosophy that everybody has to have the same benefits. Employee benefits, everybody's got to have the same benefits. Now, I'm not talking about the same benefits as they have in the US, as they have in Europe, as they have in the Far East. No, the same benefits for everybody within the company and the country in which you are operating. So the Canadian general manager has to have the same benefits as the first hired receptionist. For whatever reason, which we have no opinion on, that is what their corporate philosophy is. Everybody's got to have the same benefits. So as a result of that, and how I met this particular client with this particular advisor, because we only sell through advisors, even though this was a client we've had for many years. In dealing with this particular client, it was interesting because he said to me, here's our benefit plan. We just want to see if you can do it cheaper because we have to have the same benefit for every single employee. So there's, no difference. We want to buy this as a commodity. We want to buy it the cheapest way we can. Can you help us? And I said, fantastic. I have no idea, but I asked that question of, if we were meeting here 3 years from today, and going through that process, I understood what their corporate compensation philosophy was. And I said, great, everybody has to have the same benefits, but they can be different. And we had a discussion about that. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, everybody has the same benefits, but it's just different amounts. And what we came up with was a plan design that was very similar to their historical plan design, which was a flat $100,000 a life in AD&D, right? Everybody's the same. Doesn't matter if you're the Canadian general manager or if you are the receptionist or order filling clerk, right? You get the same 100,000. You get the same 10,000 and 5,000 for dependent life. You get the same $30,000 of critical illness. You get the same 60-day out of country travel coverage. You get the same 80% drug plan and 80% dental plan. Where it's different is everybody gets a healthcare spending account, but it's the same because everybody gets 3% of their annualized earnings. So in this particular case, we have 40 different healthcare spending account amounts, but it's 3% of their annual earnings. So the Canadian general manager who's making $250,000 a year is getting a lot more in his particular healthcare spending account than the newly hired person that's working in the warehouse at $40,000 a year. But they're the same. So it's really interesting. We satisfied the requirement of having the same plan design for everybody, right? But it ends up being different amounts for people based on their annual earnings. And this passed the sniff test with their worldwide corporate philosophy. And it passed the sniff test, and it was, it was not an issue. And but one of the things that was fascinating about this is, I want to say about 10 years ago, the headquarters, I think the headquarters is in Germany for this particular company, but they had William Mercer come in, and William Mercer was doing a worldwide study of their benefits. And as a result of that, they got a note shipped from the head office to this particular Canadian division. The Canadian division got this note that said, hey, William Mercer is going to be coming in and looking at your benefit plan and looking at your pension plan and making sure that it's on side, and they have to report back to William Mercer in Germany, and then they're going to be putting this report together and everything's going to be fine. Anyways, William Mercer came in to the Toronto office, or in this case, the Mississauga office more specifically, and met with the Canadian general manager and handed the Canadian general manager handed the guy from William Mercer a plan design summary of what they have for their benefit plan. And it showed this healthcare spending account to 3% of their annual earnings. And he said, no, I don't think this is right because you can't have this. And he said, why can't you have this? Because it doesn't meet the everybody having the same benefit philosophy test. And he goes, no, I don't know anybody that would do this type of plan design or administer this type of plan design. And they said they've been, they've had this plan design for a number of years. And the client asked, William Mercer asked the client if they've been doing it internally. They said, no, we were using a third-party administrator to help us with this. And he said it was amazing because they didn't think anybody could do this type of plan design. They were quite shocked, actually. So it's interesting because when working with this particular client, we were leading them into a direction that they wanted to go. We were leading them in a direction that they wanted to go. They designed this plan design. They accepted this plan design that would work with their corporate compensation philosophy and provide equal benefits to all. But it was, in this case, based on their salary, and it was advantageous to them. And it's fascinating because, again, this is a really thin file. It's a super thin file. It's incredibly difficult to replace. And if they are going to replace it, what are they going to replace it with, right? And, Mercer tested it and said, hey, we can't believe that someone's actually doing this. And we're going, absolutely. It's a fantastic, fantastic opportunity. Anybody have any stories about any unique plan designs that they put into place? Anybody want to share anything with us? Anybody? Hello? Anybody listening? I know some of you have been around many years, but like something that's worked extraordinarily well and passed the test of time, right? Again, this is, we've got some feedback that we're not interactive enough. Now I'm asking for interaction.
Hey, Bob, I don't mind sharing. I have a construction company group that's on a traditional plan because the employees can't figure out how to use a smartphone. So we weren't able to do this, which is a problem. But for the owner had a holdco, and we put the owner and some people through a benefit trust plan that gave them the healthcare spending account. And that's worked very well. So sometimes you can sync the two depending on how the ownership structure works. And to your point earlier, yes, there were T4 earnings, there was revenue going through Holdco. So we were able to put people through that and then keep the traditional plan for all of these workers that come and go like the wind, especially in construction, that can't figure out how to use the app on the smartphone. So sometimes you can do a hybrid where you have the two together with separate carriers, and it actually worked out really well for this client.
Yeah, it's again, understanding where they're going and what makes sense for them. So thanks, Gary. I appreciate you sharing that with me, or with all of us, pardon me. So, when we look at, understanding risks and how to manage them, right? It's about, those groups within the group and understanding what's important for those different groups within the group, coming up with that custom solution. As I like to say, start at the top. That 100% executive benefit, when you can put it in place, it's a significant tax advantage. You touch the claim once. The example I like to use is glasses. I'm in my office right now at Vaughan, and I keep these glasses here. I've got a similar pair or the same pair of glasses in my office at my home, and I've got one in my briefcase, a pair in my briefcase. So when I went and got a new prescription for my eyewear, I got 3 pairs of glasses. Because that's just the way I operate. I've got, one here at the office, one at my home office, and one in my briefcase. So if I'm going to end up being in one of your offices and want to use my computer, I can. I'm not always constantly looking for my glasses. I know where they are, right? And you touch the claim once. You put that, in this case, an $1,800 expense in. It's an $1,800 expense, and it's covered by the benefit plan at 100%. So touch the claim once. And because you are offering benefits to other employees in the group, it's not just you stand alone. It's not considered a shareholder benefit. But the other thing is, once they touch the Kool-Aid, once they drink the Kool-Aid, they never look back. Executives certainly never look back once they drink the Kool-Aid and they figure out that this is just a tax advantage way to go. So as I like to say, lead your client into a direction that makes sense for them, or help them find their way based on where they're going, right? And always recommend an executive benefit plan because of just simply that tax advantage. And once they touch it, once they taste it, once they feel it, right, they're never looking back. Never looking back. As simple as that. Reporting and accounting considerations. We provide a statement on a monthly basis to you and to the end user client. I'm not asking you to look at this particular statement in detail, but I'm just showing you what a statement looks like. Every single month you will receive a statement like this for your clients, and it shows you exactly what's happened. It's just like a bill. It's like a bill of sale, like when you go to Costco or Metro or Loblaws. it shows you what you purchased. Well, in this particular case, this client has sent us $7,201.21. So much for life insurance, so much for LTD, so much for stop loss, so much for their health and dental budgets. They've sent us this much money. Now we've spent $1,402 by sending that to insurance companies based on the promise that they're making to their employees for life insurance, the promise they're making for long-term disability insurance, the promise they're making for in Canada large claim coverage for stop loss, travel assistance, and so on. So we paid the insurance companies $1,402.48. And in this particular example, we paid out $324 in this particular month for dental claims based on the promise that they were making to their employees. We paid $180 in hospital claims, which is, one day, one hospital. We paid $100 in a vision care benefit. We paid $2,320.32 in drug claims through the drug card that we use, which is through our friends at Claim Secure, which is now Canada Life. Right, we've got paramedical coverage of $625 worth of claims. We've got $560 of medical services, and which totals an amount of $3,785. You add in the dental claims, and they've got $4,109.32 worth of claim transactions. So the client has sent us $7,000. We paid out in insurance premiums $1,400. We paid out $4,100 in claims. We paid plan operation expenses, which is including your commissions, which you determine in advance how much commission you want to be paid. And we pay ourselves, of course, to keep the lights on and the engine running. And in this particular case, it was $970.32. So we take what they paid, we subtract what their premiums were, we subtract what their total claims were, we subtract what the plan operation expenses are, and there is the client's surplus. On a monthly basis, there is the client's surplus on a year-to-date cumulative basis, and there's the client's surplus or deficit on the previous 12 months year-to-date basis, so they can see where they are year over year. If a client has a surplus in a particular month, we go fantastic. If they have a deficit in a particular month, we go fantastic. We don't care, right? Once a year, when we do a reconciliation through a renewal, the cost of the insurance may change, and we set a budget accordingly based on what their experience is dictating, as well as, in other words, what we anticipate their claims to be in the future, and then we take into account any surpluses or deficits that they may have. Right? The client owns any surplus, the client owns any deficit. It's straightforward, it's easy, it's money in, money out. It's based on the promise that they're making their particular employees. 9 times out of 10, if the client is in a deficit position, it's because the executive's claims are high. Right? And those are the easiest renewals in the world to sell. We never have a renewal problem, right? Simple as that. So with a few minutes to go, folks, one of the things that's important to understand, let me shrink this down to, tax considerations, all benefit plan costs or tax deductible business expenses. Standard healthcare benefits and dental care benefits are received tax-free. We all know that. That's insurance 101. We all know that. But for a business owner, we recommend 100%, not just 100%, 100% of everything with no co-insurances, no maximums, no deductibles. That's strongly recommended. Again, the glasses example. I want 3 pairs of glasses because that makes sense in my life. Okay? It doesn't, maybe it doesn't make sense in your life, but it makes sense in my life. The benefits are for me. Right? They're not for you, they're for me, right? So, hey, it makes sense in my life, fantastic. I want to have $1,800 in vision care expenses. Okay, that works for me. That's just an example, right? But once they taste it, once they touch it, once they feel it, once they taste the Kool-Aid, so to speak, right? They're never going back. And a business owner, sometimes we also recommend healthcare spending accounts if the spouse has a plan. So for example, if your spouse or partner, whatever you want to call it, works at the Royal Bank, fantastic. You want to have a healthcare spending account associated with this type of plan to cover all the things that the Royal Bank plan doesn't cover. Simple as that. The best part about a healthcare spending account is they're always the last payer. So you can use your spouse's plan, or the executive can use their spouse's plan first, and then the healthcare spending account second. So for coordination of benefit purposes, it works extraordinarily well. Right? So tax considerations, again, tax deductible business expense, and the benefits are received tax-free, 100% plan without a doubt. that's your position of power. And we're not talking about just, 100% plan when everybody gets 80%, but, you get 100% up to $500 of paramedical expenses. No, 100% of all of your expenses, and touch it once, not cost plus. Cost plus doesn't work. And the reason why I say cost plus doesn't work is because there's too many steps involved, and often it's not a valued benefit. Touch the claim once. So when we look at this, we go, benefits are part of compensation. Be creative with plan design. Be creative with plan design. The more creative you are with plan design, the thinner the file is going to be in the long run, and the more profitable the case is going to be. It's easy to set up a custom plan design when you ask the right questions. As simple as that. When you ask the right questions, it's easy to set up a customized plan design that the client owns. The client buys into it because they've designed it. They own it. This is my plan design. Right? It's not just an off-the-shelf, hey, I've got 25 employees. Y'all have that Canada Life off-the-shelf solution. Thank you very much. Boring. No, it's a customized plan design. We've given you 3 examples of different plan designs from different spectrums, but it's just to show you that anything is possible, because a benefit plan is nothing more than a promise between an employer and employee. So in order to understand where the client is going, you got to ask them those great questions. Know your corporate client was the sort of subject for today's session, with 20 to 100 employees, but you have to understand where your client is going. And the best way to understand where your client is going is by asking. It's as simple as that. Gary was telling me earlier about his trip to Mexico. Great. So I know where he's going. He's going to Mexico on Saturday. I'm not going to show him, hotels in Kapuskasing, because he's not going there. It would be worthless. So instead of doing a whole bunch of work, ask your client where it is they're going. Ask them this question on a regular basis, or every time you meet with them. Ask them where they're going and help them design a plan on that blank sheet of canvas that works for them, right? What do they want to promise? Who do they want to promise to? And the other thing is, report back monthly so there aren't any surprises. You want easy renewals? Report back monthly so there aren't any financial surprises. We do this with every single client every single month. You receive a copy of it as as the advisor, and the client receives a copy of it, so they know exactly where they stand on a financial basis. And as I mentioned again, 100% plans work. They work extraordinarily well, and often what happens is these plans are simply not replaceable. Thin files, and they're not replaceable. So we've had a lot of chat today. Thank you very much for participating. We have just a moment left if anybody wants to add. Let me stop sharing.
Rob, if you could scroll back to case study 3, Lorraine Richardson had a question.
Okay, I will certainly do that. Let me just share that screen again. Pardon me. Case study 3. And sorry, Lorraine, you had a question?
Actually, I just wanted to take a look at that again. I found it a bit interesting. I didn't get a chance to write a few things down, so thank you.
There you go. Case study number 3. This is the the worldwide corporate philosophy of everybody has the same benefits. All it is a very straightforward, flat benefit plan, very well defined, and then the healthcare spending account is based on 3% of their annual earnings. So what happens with this particular case is, on January 1st, or actually November 1st, the client gives us what everybody's annual earnings are going to be on an annualized basis based on their January 1st earnings. So, somebody's making $100,000, they're going to get $3,000 in a healthcare spending account. Someone that's making $50,000 is going to get $1,500 in a healthcare spending account. It's as simple as that. So what happens is, annually in November, we receive their update, and on January 1st, their healthcare spending account is set for the next 12 months, and it's based on their annual earnings. Great plan design. It's worked extraordinarily well for this particular company, and as I mentioned, William Mercer had difficulty understanding how we did it.
Thank you.
It's time that we finish up, because I promised an hour, but we're going to stick around if anybody has any further comments or discussion or anything they'd like to share. We're going to stick around for a few minutes. So Mike is going to be sending you a CE credit for participating today. Thank you very much on behalf of all of us here at the Benefits Trust. Thank you for participating. Thanks for your questions and feedback as well. We're also going to send you a very short survey the next day or three. Send it back. It only takes a minute to fill out. Give us some ideas on what you want to see covered in future sessions when we do them next year. We're going to repeat this session throughout the next couple of weeks as well. So if you know somebody that's interested in participating, please direct them to the Benefits Trust. .com. We're going to send you that what else did I forget? I can't remember. I've been talking too much and not listening. Anyways, hey guys, thank you very much, guys and girls. Thank you very much. Good selling to all of you. If we're doing business together, thank you very much for your continued business. If we're not doing business together, we'd love to visit us at the Benefits Trust. Reach out to Rob, reach out to Mike, reach out to Carrie, reach out to myself or anybody here at the Benefits Trust. We'd be happy to help you out. We love discussing benefits. That's what we do. And if we can help you in any way, shape, or form succeed in your business, that's what we want to do, is help you reach your goals and help you find out where you're going the next 3 years. And we want to make you the best 3 years of your life. Simple as that. Thank you very much. I'm going to stop recording right now, and we're going to stick around for a few minutes if you have any questions or ideas or not. If we don't, we'll see you next time. Appreciate it. Bye for now.